So recently I did a video that had the Optiplex with an i7 7700 in it. Boy, it's a lot of sevens. Let's go play some scratch-off tickets or play the lottery or something. In any case, we did that with the 7700, and we tested the RX 6400, and we tested the A380, the Intel A380, to horrible results. And then I was asked, well, what about in a rig that actually works so we can see what the performance is and get an idea if it's even worth it trying to get a budget card that doesn't take external power. So we're going to test the RX 6400, the Intel A380, and the 3050, all of which are the budget options for the three manufacturers, none of which require external power, and some of which might actually turn out okay with the 5800X. So our test rig is a 5800X AMD DDR4. It's an AM4 platform DDR4. We got 32 gig of 3600 speed memory in there. It's on an X570 motherboard. Yeah, it's an Asus Prime. We should be set up pretty well here. I did not do anything with the RGB. I'm not going to. This is just a test bench. So the first item up for bid, we're going to test the RX 6400. We are not expecting great things. I will only give you guys 1080p numbers, but I am running tests for all three in 1440p and 1080p. These cards have no business running at 1440p, but let's take a look at some of the rundown of all three of these cards. And yeah, I'll show all three of them in the system, some B-roll or something, but first we're starting out with the 6400. So I pretty much just straight up lied to you. Not intentionally, but I ended up doing it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do the first two cards. I'm going to show all the benchmarks for that. We'll talk a little bit about it. And then we're going to talk about the RTX 3050 separately because it is its own monster. And yeah, for as much as everybody badmouths the 6 gig edition of this card, the truth is it did pretty well. So we'll talk about that separately. And yes, that was a whopping 6 frames per second. It seems there's a hard VRAM limit. And although when I stepped it down to 1080p, I didn't have that issue. It did stutter a little bit. I did have some other issues that we'll talk about in a moment. But the 1440p numbers, which I was not going to test in the first place. But it is a real hard limit with that VRAM. The 4 gig just does not meet up to what Black Ops 7 needed. Now, there are some other drawbacks with both of these cards. There is no encoders on the RX 6400. Operates on a 64-bit bus. The A380, although it does have an encoder, it has a pretty good AV1 encoder. It has fallen behind the other ARCs, the other ARC cards as we've gone along, but it still does a decent job with AV1 encoding. The RX 6400 has a 4.0x4, and the other two cards that we'll also talk about, the RX 3050 in a second here, they have, it's 96-bit bus, and it is 4.0x8 lanes, so twice as many lanes, same PCIe, but twice as many lanes. I would have figured that there would be something that would be a major difference between the 6400 and the A380 as far as that is concerned. But when we add the RTX 3050 to the mix, and I'm not going to go through and detail all these out, but I'll just simply go through. We can see Shadow of the Tomb Raider, quite a big difference here. As a matter of fact, as we go through these in Borderlands, and then Cyberpunk, and then CS2 is where I start just doing the high, 1440 and 1080p high, and then we'll go through the other ones as well. But as you can see, there's quite a big difference, and in some cases, almost twice the frame rate as the other two cards. Now, I can understand why that would be with the 6400. I don't know why that is with the A380, other than maybe just software updates or something. That the RTX 3050 does have the NVENC encoder. It does have standard, 264 and all that stuff. But I was really surprised at just how difficult or how hard it was for the A380 to keep up with the RTX 3050. Now, there are some advantages and disadvantages to each. We talked about one of the disadvantages of the the RX 6400 is no encoder, but it is a single slot. It is a low profile. However, if you want to pay a little bit more for the RTX 3050, you can also get that in a single slot and sometimes a low profile. I think Yeston makes one of those cards. It's going to cost you about $50 or $60 extra. We'll get to the price in a minute, but you can get one of those. The ARC A380, although it has that AV1 encoder, which is very good, seems not to have improved a whole lot with drivers past the initial set of drivers and when the B series came out. I will, if I remember to, I'll go ahead and link a video up here. I think it's in this corner. I'll link a video where I compared some of those ARC cards together and show just how far it's slipping behind. I was not prepared, though, for how much improvement there was in the RTX 3050, seemingly with similar specs between these two 6 gig cards. Really, I mean, there are some disadvantages where the ARC A380 has to have resizable bar. The RTX 3050 does not. But remarkably, when I go back and I look and I'm saying, well, maybe the price is better on one or the other. The pricing, you can buy these cards anywhere from $150 to like $190 used, or slightly higher if you can find it a brand new. But the only difference in the price is going to be if you're looking for that 3050 and you're looking for a single slot or a low profile or something. You're going to pay a little bit more for that, but otherwise these cards are almost the same price. So why would you go off and buy a card that has to have resized bar and has fallen behind as far as drivers are concerned, or a card that only has a 4x4 bus lane and does not have an encoder at all? I would pay the same price. And the RTX 3050s are prolific. They are all over the place. They are it seems like they're multiplying like rabbits. They seem to be all over. And for as much as people give this 6 gig card a horrible review and how bad it is and how just it's a terrible card. It doesn't have enough VRAM. Granted, it doesn't, but it also doesn't take power. It doesn't take external power. And you can throw it in some of these old Optiplexes or some of these old office machines, and it's going to work. The BIOS will detect it where it will not detect the ARC card. It will keep up fine where it's got enough memory and all that stuff where you're not going to have any issues with, any bus issues or, the PCIe lanes. So 3.0, believe me, a 3.0 and a 4.0 are very different. 4.0 is twice as much bus speed as a 3.0. And when you have twice as many lanes and twice as much bus speed, there's a tendency to leave an inferior card behind, which this does. So again, this was based on a suggestion that somebody had made. Hey, look, why don't you give it a try with a beefier system to see what the comparison is there. And although it's playable, and in many cases you crank these cards down to 1080p medium settings, you're going to get a playable experience. It's not great. And you can actually even, in some cases, I would say more often than not, 1080p high, 1080p ultra, or whatever maybe, and in some cases 1440p maybe low. With the RTX 3050, it might work out okay. And like I said, it's versatile enough to go in anything like that over my shoulder there, those types of builds, the old Optiplexes, the old Lenovo's and all that stuff. It just shows up in the BIOS. So kudos for that. This card, when it came out and we're thinking, oh, these budget cards such as so-and-so, and everybody bashed it so hard, I didn't think it was going to be worth a whole lot, and I thought it would fade into the sunset. But I also thought that we would end up with, say, a 4056 gig or a 5056 gig. And although there is a 4050, I believe it's only laptop. So you can't even get a 5050 that's a 6 gig like this. And before you go off and say, oh, 6 gig, that's horrible. Remember, the 1660 was a 6 gig. The 1060 was a 6 gig. I mean, some of those cards, some of those really, really good cards that some of us are still hanging on to only had 6 gig of VRAM. So, I know people expected more out of the 3050, but the fact of the matter is all three of these cards are kind of holding their price where they are. And if you're going to pay about the same price, you might as well get that card. That's what I'm saying, especially when we're looking at significantly higher frame rates on everything I threw at him. So anyway, that's all I got for this video. I just wanted to kind of compare those in a system that was actually worth testing in, instead of trying to put them in an old Optiplex or some old build, or, you know, some 4th gen something. These, again, were on a 5800X, 32 gig of 3600 memory. They with NVMe drive in it, so there wasn't any kind of, you know, lag there. Now the games I tested were on they were on a 2.5-inch SSD, but they were using USB 3. I do that with all my games, but the operating system and all that stuff was NVMe. Everything else was, I mean, I'm trying to make this as streamlined as possible, and it's a decent rig. That 5800X is a pretty decent AM4 platform. I can't really complain about it at all. About the only thing you're going to get better than that is if you go X3D. Anyway, we gave it the best chance we could, and it seems to have told us pretty much what I thought it was going to tell us in the first place. If you're looking for that budget card, you can just pick up and do whatever you need to with it, old build or new build. Maybe that 3050 is not such a bad thing after all. So, like I said, that is all I got for this time. If you got anything out of the video, go ahead and throw a like on it. If you don't mind subscribing, if you're not already, that would be amazing. Don't forget to visit the socials, and don't forget the one most important thing: take care of yourselves, take care of each other. It doesn't cost anything to be nice or anything to be kind, and you might find out that just those little things make your day as much as it does somebody else's. Yeah. That's it. That's all I got. So until I get myself into something I got no business getting into, and this one right here, yeah, it's getting a memory upgrade. That's where I'm moving my server stuff to. This one right here, that's going to be my new mass and media server. So I'm working on that stuff. I don't know how much of a video, or maybe that's a short. I don't know what's going on with those, but there's other stuff, back over there too. We got plenty of stuff going on. So until I get myself into a bunch of that stuff that I got no business getting into, that's it. So I'll see you later.